Thanks very much, guys, for that warm welcome. And thank you, everyone, for coming to this event. I know many of you have traveled a long way, and we really appreciate you making the effort to come together for this event. Now, as the guys have already said, this is actually a bit of a big moment for us because we're bringing together, all of the partners together in one event, combining these two different events, the Building Business event and the X3 Summit, and also, welcoming a lot of accountants here as well today. Now, these two events were a little different. The Building Business event, very much an intense working event, whereas the Partner Summit was more of a networking event, but also, had a reasonable amount of content as well. And what we're hoping is get the best of both. So lots of content, we're here to work, we're here to get lots of stuff done, but we're also here to have a lot of fun. So, plenty of networking and, plenty of fun in the evenings. Now, a lot of you in the audience do know me, but for those that don't, a bit about me. I've been with Sage for 6 years. I've been CEO for 18 months. I'm from Yorkshire, which for those of you who don't know is actually the biggest county in the UK, up in the north of England. Now, people from Yorkshire have an unfounded reputation for being careful with their money. I also was the CFO, so I've kind of got a double track record here. But hopefully you've seen since I became CEO that I'm also prepared to invest. We've been investing, and I'm going to talk a lot about that over the next 5 or 10 minutes. But I do like to invest wisely, right? So that is part of my Yorkshire background. I don't like waste, so I do like to invest in the right places. Now, one of the things I want to really emphasize during this next few days is I'm an inclusive leader. So when I talk internally, I talk a lot about being inclusive, being part of a family. Now, being part of a family doesn't mean always agreeing. I don't know what your family's like, but in my family, we disagree quite a lot. But it does mean feeling part of something, belonging to something that you kind of buy into, that you're all in because you want to win. I also talk internally about freedom within a framework. Now, the reason I use that phrase is because I want to deliver both for our customers and actually for our people a greater consistency of experience. We're here to create an experience for our customers and for our people which is memorable, which is different, because you buy into something. You buy into the fact that I want to be part of this. I want to be part of Sage. Now, the reason I use that freedom within a framework is because you need some sort of framework to achieve consistency. I use sporting analogies a lot. Think about whatever your favorite sport is. I always say, rugby is my favorite sport. So when people are on the pitch, and I was given some interpretation yesterday, actually, in the UK, we call it the pitch. That's what you play on. I think here it's called the playing field because pitching is more a baseball thing, right? But you get the point. If you're on the playing field, whilst you're playing the game, the people in the stands, the coaches and the senior management can't leap onto the pitch or onto the playing field and stop the game and start interfering, i.e. you need to be able to empower your people and your leaders to make things happen, make special things happen for customers. And that applies to all of our partners. We want you to create something unique for your customers, but it needs to be within a framework that looks like Sage, because we're all in this together as Sage, one team on that playing field. Now, I want to talk about, this is a slide I use a lot, because it's like an anchor point. It's the purpose, the vision, and the strategy. We're here to transform the way people think and work so their organizations can thrive. We're here to give our customers back the thing that they value most, time. Help making them more productive, making it easier for them to run their businesses. And the way we deliver that is through these three lenses of customers, colleagues, and innovation. Starting with customers. Now, we've done a pretty good job in many ways with customers together. Sage has over £1 billion now of annualized subscription revenue. £1 billion. There aren't actually that many companies that can claim that. So we're already part of something pretty special that we've created together. We also have world-class retention. We keep our customers. Typically across the business, and particularly across the medium segment, we have over 90% retention rates. That's excellent. Every year we acquire between us thousands of new customers. The area where we need to do a bit of work is customer satisfaction. Actually, by technology standards, our customer sat scores, NPS, etc., are kind of not too bad. But I aspire to compare ourselves against the best. Think about iconic brands. Think about people and companies that you interact with in your own lives. Apple, Netflix. They have NPS scores up in the plus 60, plus 70, whereas we're more like 15. We should not be aspiring just to be the best in technology. We should be aspiring to be the best there is in terms of delivering customer experience. Colleagues, right from the beginning when I became CEO, I said, every CEO says people are the most important asset, but judge me by my actions. What's very important is we have consistency of messaging and consistency of how we speak to our people, and we invest in our people. And we're investing heavily in not just people, training, etc., but also their experience. Because again, our people need to feel it's a Sage experience, and they need to know what that means. Innovation. We're investing much more in technology and innovation, and you're going to hear a lot more from Lee, from Mark and Aaron on that. But we are committed to deliver cloud-native solutions for all of our customers. So when you combine these three lenses, this gives us the capability to delight our customers. Now, we're in the relationship business. We sell to small, medium-sized businesses. And I sometimes get asked, well, do you prefer selling direct or indirect? My answer is very simple. What does the customer want? And I think it depends, right? Sometimes the customer prefers dealing direct. Sometimes the customer prefers dealing through the partners. And so I think the answer is both are really important. But we win together. We don't win at each other's expense. We create value together. Our business model is not to extract value from our customers or from each other. It's to create more value, which we share. Now, I'd like to give you a personal example about relationship businesses. A lot of my friends run small, medium-sized businesses. Unfortunately, most of them are Sage customers as well. And one of them told me a story which really resonated. He said that he had this supplier who actually had given him pretty decent service, had a pretty good product, and in many ways wasn't really on his radar screen. But this supplier rang up somebody in his accounts department and was very rude and very aggressive about a non-payment of a bill. Now, he runs a small business, 25 people. These are all people he's handpicked, he's worked with for many, many years. To him, that was personal, that somebody had been aggressive to one of his people. And it wasn't just that one thing, but that one thing really damaged his trust. And ultimately, he changed suppliers. Now, what made it worse was it would have been bad enough that was somebody being rude to one of his people. But that lady in the accounts department was his daughter, who was inexperienced and had genuinely missed a payment. And that supplier did not take that into account. We're in the relationship business. We sell to people who typically own their own businesses. Now, I've used this slide a lot, as I said, since I became CEO. And actually, as all of you know, as partners, particularly the Sage X3 partners, we've changed things around a bit in recent years. Hasn't always been the consistency that we might have wanted. And so when we came to the new financial year this year, a number of our Sage colleagues said to me, so what's the strategy for FY20, Steve? And I said, the same as last year. Right? We don't change our strategy every year, right? So this slide will survive for many years to come. So the key to the strategy is focus. Now we're clear about who we serve. And Lee will talk more about product decisions in a minute. But we serve small and medium businesses and organizations. Doesn't mean we'll never sell to a micro business, doesn't mean we'll never sell to a large business. But we focus on small and medium, and we focus on accountants and bookkeepers. Now, some people seem to think that somehow accountants are becoming less relevant. I think they're more relevant than ever. Obviously, the role's changing, but accountants will always be very, very important to small and medium businesses. Now, look, the world's changing. It's changing for the people we serve, our customers. Look at what's going on in the world. Things like the current virus. The world's going digital. It's more connected. There's definitely more increased political and social instability. The norms are no longer the norms. And that context has shaped our technology vision. So the digital environment that we're seeking to create, it's so much more than a product. It's an experience. Now, Aaron's obviously going to talk a lot more about this tomorrow, and I'm not going to, particularly as he's in the audience, going to start going into the details of the digital environment. But the vision for the Sage Business Cloud is to be a comprehensive digital environment composed of cloud platforms, services, and applications. It's an entire experience. Now, at the heart of that is identity management. We have to have single identity management. Think Apple ID. The Sage ID will deliver this unified customer journey. Now, I like to call it, I think of it in simple terms as a club. Okay, so we want all our customers to join this club. Now, the experience will be slightly different. If you're a native cloud customer, you get that full digitized experience. You're going to live in that environment permanently because it's always on. If you're a connected customer, you're connecting and consuming things from the club, but you're not there all the time because sometimes you go away and you're not connected. So for the true full platinum or titanium experience, you will need to be on native cloud. But that connected cloud experience is going to be a really good gold level experience. But what we want is for all of our customers to enjoy that. We also want all of our partners and ISVs to be members of this club and be part of this environment. And the recent launch of the marketplace is a sign of that commitment. Values and behaviors. For me, this is really, really important. Right from the start, when I became CEO, I talked about how important leadership behaviors were and how we set the tone, how we treat each other, how we treat our customers. If we don't have the same values and the same underlying approach, it's very, very difficult for us to deliver a consistent experience because we don't treat people in the same way. Now, an example is when we were looking to acquire Intact, we spent a lot of time talking to Rob Reed and Mark Linden. And actually, a lot of those early conversations were exploring whether we shared a common purpose and a common way of doing things. It goes without saying that the Sage Intact product is amazing. But if we didn't share that belief system and we didn't share that approach, often where acquisitions go wrong is the management team leaves shortly afterwards, and then it's very difficult. We're very proud of the fact that we're still, the Sage Intact management team remains and is part of that overall total Sage family. And that's something we're very proud of. Relationships. Think about your own sort of formative years as to what kind of was your underlying belief system. For me, what my father taught me was, first of all, always acknowledge mistakes. He had a thing about covering up mistakes. Just acknowledge your mistakes, learn from them. Secondly, all success is underpinned by hard work. There's no such thing as somebody lucky and lazy. right? Sport, business, it doesn't matter. The people at the top of their game are there, yes, because they're talented, but they also work incredibly hard and they're focused on serving their customers. Now, we've taken what we call our ET, which is like our top 40, 45 people, through a development program over the last year or so. So we've spent the equivalent of about 12 days together over 4 separate events. And the reason we've done that is because I wanted that team to spend time together developing this shared purpose and this shared thinking. I wanted this team to come together and have connection, not just be a group of individuals. Big investment of time, but hopefully all of you as partners, if you're not seeing it already, will start to see the impact of that. You'll start to see a Sage leadership team, which is very different from the Sage leadership team of a few years ago. I love this overriding value. We do the right thing. We're all adults. We all know we all have lots of common sense. We kind of know what the right thing is. And if we do that constantly, we won't go far wrong. Why does this matter? Why does any of this matter? Well, actually, a lot of technology companies are having their integrity challenged, right? You know, our customers are nervous. What are you doing with my data? Are you using that data for your benefit or for mine? Do you stand by that kind of moral compass? Now, we start with the customer. We have to start with the customer. It's about delivering a compelling experience to that customer. But it's also a team sport. Together we succeed. We solve problems together. Another little example, I did an all hands recently in Atlanta. And afterwards, as I always do, I sort of hung around. And somebody came up to me and started talking to me. We were chatting for a few minutes. And then he said to me, "This is amazing, Steve, that I can actually come and talk to you. I used to work for a big competitor. And typically, you know, management team, if I ever saw them, which wasn't very often, sort of came in, big entourage, made a quick presentation and then disappeared. So it's quite cool that I can stand here and talk to the CEO." And I said, "Well, I think it's quite cool that you come and talk to me, actually, and that you tell me how things are going on, right? How we treat each other, how we behave with each other is really, really important. And it takes conviction to stick to this. It's very easy when the quarter's not going very well or there's some pressure to bend the rules, if you like, or bend your conviction. If you do that, your people know. You know. We all know. Now, trust doesn't mean being perfect. Actually, in many ways, if you think about it, you're more likely to trust someone if they admit some imperfections, right? Honesty, if you try and cover up things, back to what my father taught me, if you try and cover a mistake, people don't really trust you. Now, the partners are all part of this family, these shared values. And we kind of all need to be all in. We're all in to win the World Cup, right? That's what we're trying to do. A lot of my leaders are here. Some of them are new, but all promoted from within. That's the other thing I'd like to emphasize. Some people say to me, "Well, you made a lot of changes on your executive committee, Steve." Yep, and I've accessed a lot of talent. Actually, I haven't brought anybody in from outside yet onto my executive committee, all internal promotions. So a lot of my team are here. They're all straightforward people who love solving problems together and working with people to solve problems together. So, as I say, please interact with them. And on that note, what I'd like to do is now introduce to you somebody who falls very much into that straight shooter category. Lee Perkins, who's now the Chief Commercial and Product Officer for Sage. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve, for those very kind words of introduction. A straight shooter, you can interpret that so many different ways, can't you? Somebody who's going to be nice and simple and logical, straightforward to deal with, or somebody who occasionally is going to hit you right between the eyes. Probably more the former than the latter. Certainly this morning, that's for sure. So I'd just like to extend Steve's welcome to all of you coming here to Orlando, and specifically the coming together of these two great events. Clearly starting from different places, but with similar purpose, and ultimately getting you guys together, the combined indirect horsepower of our business is a massive gift for us. One of the things that we'll talk a bit about over the next 2 or 3 days is how different some things feel. Feeling is a very, very important part of where we are. Things feel very different than they did a couple of years ago. And what we're aspiring to do is make sure that things don't just feel different, but they also feel better for you as a consequence of what we share with you over the next couple of days. So a little bit about me, as Steve mentioned, I'm part of his leadership team, and I'm really proud to be part of that leadership team. I worked for Sage before, so I'm a boomerang, if you like. I worked for the business from 2011 to 2016. I'm proud to lead the UK and Ireland at that time, but I exited the business because something didn't quite feel right. I knew we needed to mature, I knew we needed to invest more deeply in cloud. But the way we were going about things and the way things were happening didn't quite feel right to me, and this may be part of the straight shooter in me. I don't like commentary, I don't like commentators. If something doesn't feel right, you have to do something different. So I did, and I chose to leave the business. A few years on, did I go to be a data scientist or a whiz-bang product manager to prepare me for my new role? Well, no, I didn't. But I am really, really privileged to be here. Not just to lead the product organization, which I've done for just over a year or so now, but more recently, the regional commercial operations as well, which helps me develop even greater links to all of you. So Steve talked about purpose, vision, strategy, the real DNA of our company, the things that underpin how we are and who we are. And he also started to talk to you about strategy. One of the things I know from being sat where you are is one of the real gaps has been precision around our product strategy. So over the next 10 or 15 minutes, I'm going to share a bit more with you on that and set that journey off in terms of specifically how we align for you and how the medium segment aligns for all of us. So the strategy will align, but I want to start really by talking about why you matter. This is context. Many of you know us very, very well. You'll have a sense of some of the big numbers. You know, Steve made reference to the £1 billion subscription revenue piece. This gives you a sense of our recurring revenue, but the reason for sharing it is because 40% of it comes via you. Now this is really important, right? Because all vendors, all businesses can talk about the perceived importance of their partners. We can't do what we do without your complete engagement and alignment. We just really can't. So it's 40% of our global recurring revenues come from you. And when we look specifically to the medium segment, that goes to 60%. Again, just more context for you. All of you are working really hard every day on your customer bases, trying to acquire new customers, trying to deliver great value for the businesses that you're already, and organizations that you're already working really deeply with. As a medium channel, you help serve over 250,000 businesses around the world with Sage solutions. I think that's pretty cool too. So Aaron's going to talk more about innovation tomorrow, and one of the things that he's brought to us is a sense of confidence. It's been fantastic actually, because one of the things about Sage is that it's a humble business, but sometimes it means we can reflect a bit inwardly on where we are rather than to be more positive about the reality of what we can do. But what we know is that product and innovation alone just won't be enough. Unless we really get together with you super tightly and you're an extension of that family, it won't work. Now, Steve mentioned about families. Families, I think, are the most interesting organizations on the planet. Now, if yours is anything like mine, we fight, we laugh, we cry. Sometimes we have adversity, and when we do, we really come together. When we see excitement, we really mobilize together. But ultimately, we are one, all in. And that's what being part of the Sage family is really all about. One channel, one family, one single purpose. And Steve made reference to rugby. You can probably tell by the silhouette if you can't see me in detail. That's part of my background. Okay. One of the things that rugby teaches you is to win well and lose well. It's about grace, okay? But I have to admit, occasionally being disgraceful when it comes to losing. I love winning. I absolutely love winning. And one of the most important parts of winning for me is that somebody else has to lose. and that's the competitors, okay? We have to be absolutely all in. And when we think about winning, for me, it translates to a noble, iconic mission, because if you're not on that, you might find yourself on one of these things, a bit of a treadmill. That's why I enjoy my silhouette, right? Because I don't do treadmills. I just do not do treadmills. Treadmills are something that every single one of you, every single one of us endures at some point in your professional life. When you're doing something that is repeatingly boring and not really transforming things for yourselves or the people around you. But the mission is really what it's all about. Making big choices, big commitments, being brave, being precise about what you're not going to do so that you can really put all of your effort into that noble, iconic cause. Now for us, the mission translates to key choices. Who we serve, the categories that we specialize in, where occasionally we will build or buy, being really clear about what is it that only we can do, and also thinking about what works for a new customer acquisition proposition, and equally what works for those all-important 250,000 customers that we've already got today. And there are a number of proof points. We've launched many new products in the last 12 months. We've made a series of acquisitions. We've also done some disposals. You may have seen we've just announced that we've completed the disposal of our business in Brazil. The reason for that is because we feel it's better for the colleagues and the customers there to be in the hand of somebody else, because we're on a path to the Sage Business Cloud. Those are the kind of decisions and choices you have to make when you're on a mission. With that mission, it's absolutely imperative that we create clarity. Everybody needs to know what part they play and where we're headed. So we created a really simple North Star for us. And you'll be delighted to know that through all those hours, days, and weeks of deep, soul-searching, strategic thinking, we managed to put it in 6 boxes on one slide. Now that's pretty important, right? Because we all need to know it, and we all need to know it and why it's what it is. Again, a little bit of context for you, especially for those of you that are more new to the Sage family. One of the challenges of being a 39-year-old business, we'll be 40 next year, is that we have a long legacy. We have business in over 20 countries, and that creates complexity in the portfolios that we provide. There are compliance challenges, there's aging of technology challenges. Now, we've actively halved our portfolio in the last 2 years, which is a really material step to letting off the handbrake with going faster with the cloud journey. It's absolutely a critical point. And the combination of that kind of activity is this very simple model portfolio. So as Steve mentioned, on the left there, we serve small and medium customers. Now, that doesn't mean we won't serve larger customers. It just means we're not actively focused on driving that because we know we're more likely to win in small and medium-sized businesses. It equally doesn't mean we don't serve micro customers. Again, Steve made reference to the accountants channel, which for me personally is one of the most important advocacy networks on the planet. So if anybody here has any misconception that accountants aren't really important and won't be, let me reset that straight away. It's a critical channel, and it's just as important for the medium segment as it is for small. When you look at the categories that we perform in, we're accounting and financials, and people and payroll. Now, I'm not going to talk much about small today in terms of a segment, but let me just give you a sense. There are over 2 million customers in that segment for us today around the world of Sage. Over 2 million. You're part of a big family, okay? That small portfolio now is 100% native cloud. In the last 12 months, we've made real strides with native cloud accounting for micro and small businesses, evolving specifically to focus on the professional user in small businesses. We've added CakeHR to bring HCM solutions for the small segment. And we also acquired AutoEntry, which is to drive automation, very much targeted at accountants in the first phase, to simplify their lives, to give them back time. And as I said earlier on, it's as much of a benefit to the medium segment as it is to small. What you'll also see here is reference at the top to cloud connected and cloud native. Now, we get lots of questions about why is it still separate? Why isn't it just one big medium? One of the things we feel really strongly about as we've gone through the changes we've experienced in the last 18 months is that there are no impossible jobs. So many great people in Sage ran out of personal runway because they had too many books on their metaphorical bookshelf. Things got over-aggregated. Doesn't it make sense to be really deliberate about the service-centric verticals, about Sage Intacct, but to equally be really deliberate about X3, manufacturing and complex distribution? Doesn't that make sense? While we're going through that transition, and it will be a transition over time for sure, we really need expert investment and focus to fulfill our potential together. The connected world sometimes gets shifted off to the side because it's slightly less sexy than the native world. Any of you familiar with that? Yeah? You make a lot of money for yourselves, you create a lot of value for your customers, and you're really important to us too. You added over 2,000 new logos last year in Cloud Connected. That is not the sign of a business that doesn't have a valuable proposition for its customers. At the same time, what we know by having the incredible Sage Intacct, Gartner award-winning, every analyst on the planet has us in the top right quadrant, and rightly so. And the real important combination with Sage People, we have a phenomenal new customer acquisition toolkit. But the great thing is we get the best of both worlds. Now, for those of you that are Sage X3 partners, you could be forgiven for thinking we've gone through a bit of an identity crisis. Enterprise management, X3, this is all very specifically down to helping us focus on the customers that we serve. And we're listening to you, and we'll do more and more work with you in the breakouts over the next couple of days. But you're telling us that hosting really works for you, and that we need to be realistic about where our product fits and what form factor suits the market best. We're listening, we're all ears. And it's really important to just make reference to the Sage Service Fabric as well. This is the unsung hero, if you like, of Sage Intacct internationalization. Without the common components that are created within the Service Fabric, we would not have been able to bring the products to market that we have in the UK, Canada, and Australia in the last 6 months. And we're really, really excited about coming to South Africa at some point later on in 2020 as well. So there's a lot to be proud of. But are we done? No, we're not done. Expect us to be purposeful, expect us to move at pace, and expect us as family members occasionally to disagree. But we're all on the same side, and it's all about winning together.